Hello, my name is Jeremy Landry, and I'm a consulting security engineer, and today I'll be covering the Next-Gen IPS POV module. The agenda is going to cover overview of POV process, what prep work we need to handle before kicking off the POV, such as collection of customer data, setting up a SPAN interface, configuration of policies on the FMC, virtual machine that we need to stand up for the management center, as well as AD integration. And we'll also cover placement options of where you would want to stand the solution up in the customer environment. We'll also be going over some best practices. I'll take you through the demo flow that I use. Everyone has their own. Some things to look out for, and I'll also include some resources for you to leverage, including a setup guide where you can download all of the materials and all of the software. So at the end of this module, hopefully you'll have a better understanding between the different types of POVs, which is tactical and strategic. Know which customer data you'll need to collect prior to starting that POV. Understand the resources that are available to you for successful POV execution and support, and recognize some common challenges that we run across in POVs and hopefully avoid them. So we have a tactical POV and a strategic POV. Tactical POV is usually short, running anywhere between 2 and 4 weeks. And we usually go with cookie cutter policies, very repeatable, nothing out of the ordinary, just to have the customer get a feel for the features and the functionality of the product. And many times this is the right POV to win the opportunity. It's when we get into longer engagements where a customer wants to take a look at it for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, maybe longer. They have specific requirements that they want to look at, possibly specific integrations with, say, a certain SIM or maybe a vulnerability management solution. They're also going to test the performance. They may be using pre-canned attack packages or strike packages from a product such as Breaking Point. Sometimes these are head-to-head with a competitor. And in these types of engagements for a strategic POV, it's probably best to leverage Talos. Talos will help you in a POV of that nature. They will provide you with custom policies and coverage for the attack modules that they're going to be using in a longer strategic POV. A tactical POV is what we're going to be focusing on today. So in a tactical POV, we want to make sure up front we determine the success criteria, right? We want to have the expectations very clearly set between the customer and ourselves and partners to make sure that we understand what determines a win. When will this POV be ending? We want to have an idea of what they want to look at, and then we want to gather as much information about the customer's environment as possible when we're doing our prep work. Find out where they plan on putting this. Is it going to be in line? Is it going to be transparent? Find out what they want to look at. There's nothing worse than showing up to a Next-Gen IPS POV only to find out that they really want URL filtering. This has actually happened where we've all been talking about Next-Gen IPS, and at the very last second they start down the URL filtering path. So make sure you bring the right tool for the job and expectations are clearly set. I'll cover basic demo flow of a tactical POV as well as the best practices for a tactical POV. In a tactical POV, we want to find out first and foremost, is this going to be a head-to-head bake-off? If so, what are the deployment expectations? Typically, and what we desire to do is go out of band, so we want to be passive off of a SPAN port, usually just south of the firewall. At the internet edge, where we can see a lot of good internet-facing traffic. If we're going to be head-to-head against another vendor, are we going to get a look at the same traffic as they are? Will they be looking at the same traffic during the same window of time? Sometimes a customer will want to look at 2 vendors, and for the first 4 weeks, we'll look at vendor A, and for the second 4 weeks, we'll look at vendor B. And the problem with that approach is we're both getting entirely different sets of data. So it's going to be very difficult to compare apples to apples in that situation. So we would rather go at the same time if you want to have the best results. we want to find out which features are in scope. Do they really want to focus and drill down on malware detections and visibility and control into the malware in their environment, which is an AMP feature? Are they huge on Snort? Do they have a lot of experience with signature rule writing? Do they want to get into any specifics around tuning preprocessors? You want to know all that stuff up front. And then, of course, what kind of measurable metrics are they going to be looking at? Are they going to be looking at pure detections to make their decision? You're going to want to know that going in, right? So some of the things we want to collect in pre-deployment of this POV are management IP addresses. You don't want to be showing up on site and not having management IP addresses, and then you're waiting for people to find those things for you. You'd rather your time spent on site be showing unique business value rather than trying to set up the POV. The quicker we can collect data, the quicker I can start showing customers things like indications of compromise and malware events and the like, which is going to actually go a lot further in showing unique business value than trying to find an IP address. So find out ahead of time the IP addresses that we're going to use on the sensor. If we're doing this on an ASA, we need an IP address for the underlying ASA, a management IP address. And of course, we're going to need IP address for the Firesite Management Center, or otherwise known as FMC, formerly known as Defense Center. You'll hear people use those interchangeably, but I'll be using FMC. DNS, NTP information, what network ranges are we interested in looking at? Is there a proxy in play? And that's a big one, actually. If there's a proxy in place, oftentimes customers will have some funny things going on with the telemetry. Everything will look like it's coming from the same IP address, for example. And there's ways to get around those types of things, but we need to know about it before we show up on site. Also, if you know there's a proxy there, you'll know that you need credentials so that you can actually reach the internet to get things like rule updates and global geodatabase updates. Any other relevant information, like are they an AD shop, or do they use something more rare, like Novell? You still see that every once in a while. This is a data collection sheet that I use to send out to my customers. This is a sheet that is included in a POV best practices guide that is partner-facing as well as internal Cisco-facing. I have the link of that in our resource slide at the end of this presentation. This is a great one-page document that collects all this data for you. I send it to a customer a week or so in advance. They send it back to me with all this information in it, and I know what's going on the day that I'm going to show up for the POV. This is the top of the page. The second part of the page covers all the IP addresses. Do they have an ESXi host, a server that we can stand up the VM on for the FMC? Local DNS information will be gathered up here. SPAN information, AD integration, all that stuff's on here. So that takes me to my next point. So SPAN is the way to go when you're doing a tactical POV. It's not intrusive. It's not going to require a network outage, of course. Fairly easy to do, and most customers are already familiar with setting up SPAN. I include this when I send my customers my prep work, my information gathering sheet. I include these little cheat sheets, right? So catalyst switches, here's how you set up a SPAN. This is a helpful little guide. If it's a Nexus switch, I have a guide for that as well. I'll send all of this to the customer. And usually on a prep call, I will have already gone over this option with the customer, where we want to place this. Every once in a while, you'll run into a situation where a customer intends on placing this in a test enclave or some type of small shadow network in a lab. And that's understandable. Sometimes change control does not allow for us to be in production traffic whatsoever, or sometimes the customer's comfort level is just not there yet. The problem with that is not seeing real data can have some very detrimental effects on our telemetry and the context that we can provide around that data that we're seeing. The best traffic is real traffic. And good traffic in is going to give us good telemetry out. If we have a bunch of pre-canned TCP traffic being replayed through there, we're going to see mixed results. So this is a helpful guide showing you where the optimal placement is. Option number 1 is, of course, north of that switch at the network edge, just south of whatever firewall they already have in place today, whether it be another vendor or a Cisco firewall, it doesn't matter. We'll sit off a span port just right below that so we can see all the traffic. And there's, of course, other options. We can hang off of one of the core switches. We can go with an inline tap. A lot of customers will have a Gigamon or something similar in place where we can leverage that feature, and it's even easier. Typically, we want to stand up the Firesite Management Center on a VM because it's one less box to carry out there, and it's a lot easier than trying to procure a box to send out there. The only caveat to sending out a VM is you have to make sure that they have a place to stand up the VM. Are they already an ESX? Are they already a VMware shop? Do they have storage and processor and memory resources to host our Firesite Management Center? Again, getting on site, having everything else ready to go, and no place to stand up management, you're gonna have to spend a lot of time figuring that problem out while you pace around their data center. It's not where you want to be. So I mentioned this proof of value best practice guide for firepower services on ASA. This actually works well for standalone appliances as well. This document is maintained by our partner organization. This is a document that has been updated several times over the last year. It's about 50 pages long, but it's very concise and cleanly written, and it takes you from what all the POV process entails, some training links in there to take you through some demo flows, deployment options, where to download all the software, how to install, how to get it licensed, how to configure your Firesite Management Center, including all the policies, such as your network policy, your file policy, intrusion policy, and access control policies. How to run risk reports at the end of the POV when the eval is wrapped up, and then, of course, the all-important device sanitization. You do not want to be showing up to customer B with customer A's data still on the test gear. That would be less than ideal. These next couple slides are actually pulled directly from the best practices guide that I mentioned. This slide is just a pretty clear-cut depiction of what the interfaces are used for on the back of a mid-range ASA. Of course, the most important thing being we have a management interface, and we have a span traffic interface where we're going to be actually collecting that traffic. There's some pretty important configuration details you'll need to be aware of on the underlying ASA if you're going to use an ASA with firepower services. First off, that ASA is going to need to be in transparent mode. You're going to have to set up your interfaces according to these directions, and you're going to have to bring that interface up. Also, please do not forget to set the password up, set up the clock and the time zone, DNS information, etc. And then we want to be able to get into this box one day, so you're going to need to enable authentication and set up SSH. This red box around this very important command. This command is what makes these evaluations possible. Traditionally, an ASA needs to see traffic traversing to do anything with it, and that didn't really work for us in a passive span port scenario. So we have this command that you have to put on the interface. Notice we're in interface configuration here where we issue this traffic forward SFR monitor only command. Yeah, you cannot leave this command off or things will not work. Also, you'll need to have a service policy set up on the underlying ASA so that we can punt all the traffic the ASA sees up to the SourceFire module or the Firepower Service module inside of the ASA. A word on Firesite Management Center. If you're going to do this on a VM, make sure you publish the software ahead of time. You can work with your Cisco SE or CSE on the account to help get this done. The quicker you get them the code, the quicker they can stand up that VM so that you can get it licensed, because you cannot license the solution until we have already deployed Firesite Management Center. The license key is found inside Firesite Management Center. Without the license key, we can't actually generate any licenses. These are the various tiers of licensing. You have TA is the SKU, that's IPS and Application Visibility Control. And then what I tend to do is I go TAMC every time right out the gate. Unless a customer specifically tells me not to turn on URL filtering because they don't care about that, they already have a solution, or they're just adamantly opposed. It's come up before where they just do not want URL filtering in the mix, then go ahead and go TAM. But I just go, I license everything but the kitchen sink. And here's an example of the license key. It looks just like a MAC address with an extra byte on the end of it. It's under System, Licenses, and then click Add New License, and you'll see this key right here. You'll need to have the customer navigate to this. I actually send in this screenshot so there's no question about where they need to go. And I'll have them copy and paste this and shoot it over to me in email ahead of time so I can have licenses generated well before the day we kick off the POV. For partners, you're going to want to leverage partner help, which you can access by going to www.cisco.com/go/ph, or you can call the 800 number on this slide and go through the options listed on this slide, and they will be more than happy to cut you some licenses. You'll need the deal ID and customer name and some other information. That other information consists of the trained SE who's going to be on this opportunity, what is the win criteria. You'll want the license key provided in there. Of course, they can't really do anything without that. Are we doing hardware or VM for management? What's the sensor type? Is it a hardware appliance like a 7000 or 8000 series firepower appliance, or is this being done on an ASA? And of course, you'll need the deal ID, like I mentioned. Heads up. Whenever you stand up a Firesite Management Center hardware appliance, it has a burned-in address of 192.168.45.45. Know that before you just plug it into a customer's network, because you could have an IP conflict. This has happened in the past. Also, if you're doing firepower appliances, in addition to a hardware Firesite Management Center, they'll both come shipped with a configured IP address of 4545. You will definitely have a conflict if you plug them both in, so change one of them beforehand. You can actually take, the easiest way to do this is take your laptop and connect a cable, an Ethernet cable directly from your laptop to the management interface on the Firesite Management Center. Give yourself an IP address in the 192.168.45/24 network, and you'll be able to access it at 4545 and do everything from the GUI. Otherwise, you can SSH to it, the same method of connection, but SSH to it and go at it at command line. If they're already a Firepower appliance customer and they're just wanting to get a good look at what we're doing on the ASAs nowadays, it's very easy because that's sort of a no-brainer, right? They already have Firesite stood up. They may call it Defense Center. It's the same thing. We're going to just tie into their existing management platform, and that's even easier. User agent configuration. Try not to skip this portion. For whatever reason, it's just more impactful to a customer POV to be able to tie events to a username rather than just an IP address. We can't do that without having the user agent installed. It's very simple, takes about 5 minutes once you download the user agent software from CCW. You will install it on any Windows machine that's a member of the domain. You do not install it on the AD server itself. Once it's installed on a domain member, you're going to configure it, and I have the guide for this in my resource slide. You're going to configure that, point it at the Defense Center or the Firesite Management Center, point it at the AD, where it's going to then pull the log on, log off events from the security logs, and it's going to hand that over to the Firesite Management Center. So we're going to have, we're going to be able to tell who was at what IP address. You'll also need to set up the LDAP connector inside Firesite Management Center so that you can pull down groups and users from AD so that you can use that in your rules and your policies. Remember that span placement is crucial. I allow customers or partners or anyone to go ahead and set up a span port before I get there. It might do you a little bit of you might be able to head off some problems if you double check that. If you're not, especially if you think you're not seeing good data, double check the span. Make sure that it's configured properly and you're not spanning less than you think you are. The more traffic, the better, right? So span placement is crucial, and of course the configuration is crucial. Good data in, good data out. Make sure, again, reiterating the success criteria, know what the customer wants to see, set up a timeline to have weekly checkups where you'll set up a nice 30-minute to 1 hour WebEx where you can keep the customer on task with their evaluation so things don't slip through the cracks, such as, well, we had a project come up or we had to put out these other fires, so we haven't really had time to look at it. They'll always have time to look at it if you are, if you're getting on the phone with them, getting on a nice WebEx once a week and going through their data, answering questions they may not even know they had, showing them different events in their data, and just building that value, showing the unique business value that we provide. So again, very important to find out what's important to the customer, what they want to see ahead of time. Show them what's relevant to what they told you they're interested in. Also, show them things that you picked up along the way from other POVs. I bring up things all the time that customers didn't even know they wanted to see, but once I show them, it becomes the highlight of that POV checkup call. Make sure you differentiate wherever possible, especially if this is going to be a head-to-head POV where we are evaluating against another vendor. Make sure you know our strengths and where we can show unique business value. So for the demo flow, or basically what I do on day one of a POV once we start seeing good data, is I walk them through Context Explorer, which is a nice high-level overview of their entire security posture and all events, right? I drill down on impact flags, and I emphasize the importance of indications of compromise, and because that's pretty big differentiator with our solution, right? I then also touch on dashboards and how that plays into reporting. Basically, I generate my reports off of my dashboards, which is probably a best practice. And I go into some more detailed context and visibility using those dashboards, show them how to set up custom tabs, custom widgets within their dashboard, and show them how we can leverage the scheduling to send out reports to the right people on a regular basis. Policies, I'm going to configure the policies and show them where those policies live. I'm also going to demonstrate the importance of Firesite recommendations and demonstrate where users and rules can be leveraged, such as AD users and groups, and applications. I want to cover that very well because a lot of our customers may be stuck in a CX mindset, the ASA CX solution. This application visibility control is not that. This is pretty robust solution. You're going to want to demonstrate how many applications we see out of the box and the granularity of which we can apply application rules, and such as down to the subcategory of those rules. So not just Facebook, but Facebook chat, Facebook games, Facebook posts. You want to show how we differentiate between all those various sub applications. And then I show them geo-blocking. I had a customer that literally had a solution that was dedicated just to blocking based on geo. That's all the box did. Being able to show how we can do that in addition to providing top-notch threat-focused security is pretty big for those types of customers. You want to show them that we have the ability to do all of that. File trajectory is huge. This is AMP, right? We're gonna turn on AMP licensing. We want to demonstrate and show the way we can scope an outbreak, how we can nail down patient zero, answering those very important forensic questions when there's an event or an outbreak. This resource slide, I can't stress enough how important the Firepower Services for ASA POV Best Practices link is. It is hugely helpful. At first glance, you're going to think that document looks a little long. It is very, very useful. I keep a copy of it, a hard copy of it in my bag, because every once in a while I just forget that this policy needs to be configured just so, and it's all in there. It is perfect for tactical POVs. and a great, actually, starting point for a strategic POV. This slide also shows you where you're going to be able to download all the code, where you're going to, how to register and add new devices in the Fireside Manager, how to set up the user agent, as well as where you're going to do all the POV licensing from. There's an actual document on the partner portal that I've linked there, second from the bottom, showing you how to do that as well. So hopefully in this module, you've come to understand the difference between a tactical and a strategic POV. You've come to know what data and how important it is to collect the data prior to showing up and beginning that POV. And you'll know some of the resources that are available to you for successful POV execution and support. And you can look out for some of those challenges or gotchas that we run into every once in a while in a POV. So thanks for watching.